China and Africa have maintained close communication and a special relationship for decades, with cooperation bound to keep growing in the years ahead. Now, besides satellite television infrastructure projects, exchanges in TV programming has also proved successful. While attending the 2015 Forum on China-Africa Cooperation in Johannesburg, South Africa, Chinese President Xi Jinping announced China will supply 10,000 African villages with satellite television access while training 1,000 African media professionals. How far has that pledge progressed? And as voices in developing countries still trail far behind Western countries, how can Africans and the Chinese people work together to boost our voices on international platforms? Today, I'm pleased to be joined by three African guests to share their opinions. They are Kennedy Munyangeyo, head of Rwanda Television Agency; WINSTON AGABA, Managing Director of the Uganda Broadcasting Corporation; and Maxwell Loko, Managing Director of the Nigerian Television Authority. Gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
African movies could include more of the continent's landscapes and natural resources to show African culture, customs, and scenery to more Chinese people.
International communication should use a two-way approach. To amplify China's global voice, two-way dialogue about cultural influence and international market share is essential. Only if two-way communication is achieved can China's international dialogue work best. Firstly, we should focus on spreading our own culture through media. Then we can try to emphasize two-way communication and interactions. We must also pay attention to how the depiction of African countries influences the Chinese audience.
Many cultures have their own universal values. If you go to Africa right now and ask people what Chinese movies or TV shows they know, most of them would tell you Chinese Kung Fu, which is something that has a huge impact in Africa. Startimes has a Kung Fu channel, which was established on November 1st, 2011. So it's been almost 7 years now, and today it has considerable influence in the African market. Nowadays, there are many more movies and TV shows in today's context. I think in the past, the Western media had an absolute dominance in Africa. However, this situation is rapidly changing. Now, Africa is going through the process of transforming from analog to digital television, and Africa is creating a massive and historical opportunity for this transformation.
Startimes is a Chinese company who has been investing to set up infrastructure for African families to watch quality TV. Maxwell, in terms of Nigeria, how many villages are receiving this kind of infrastructure projects, and how has the progress been?
No, for the 10,000 African villages, Nigeria is being given 1,000. And for now, I think we're just in the process of receiving the equipment. I've been told before I came here that about 50% of the equipment had been cleared from or not cleared yet, but at the port. So, you know, it's coming through our Ministry of National Planning that it's actually in charge of making sure that this box television infrastructure are delivered in all the rural areas. So for now, I understand the Ministry of National Planning is negotiating with the Ministry of Finance to get duty waiver to have them cleared from the port so that they can be distributed.
Will there be any obstacle? Are there any difficulties in helping this project to go forward?
For now, I don't think the obstacles have been crossed, approvals have been granted, and I think the only thing left now is just to get the duty waiver. Because these are grants. I mean, you shouldn't be paying duties for them.
Okay.
But again, like any other thing, there has to be approvals.
Yeah. In terms of Rwanda, how many villages and what's the progress?
Rwanda, honestly speaking, that project is coming on the right time while we are just looking for TV penetration. And this project will help a lot to, for Rwandans to access education programs. Yeah, I think it's a nice project, and I'm quite confident that it will work and it will go smoothly.
Yeah. Is this the first time that this kind of project, infrastructure project, is being implemented in this area, in this perspective? I mean, from an outside investor to your countries. I mean, have there been similar initiatives? If not, why has there not been such projects in the past?
I think in Rwanda it's quite the first one, because we've been struggling with TV penetration. I think it's the first one, and we are really appreciating that.
In terms of Uganda?
Uganda is definitely the first one. And I think this is a plus to digital migration, because now it's possible to have a variety of channels. In the past, it was only the government broadcaster that would have only one channel. But right now in Uganda, we have over 30 private TV channels on the platform. So there's a variety, and people like Startimes and other pay TV, I mean, they're offering bouquets of over 70 channels. So the variety is there. The first time that a government like China has come forth to support this initiative, and we believe it's the first of the many that we shall see unfolding.
How important, how necessary is or how instrumental will the training program for the 10,000 African professionals for African countries? I mean, Africa, also you have a lot of talents. You also have your own capacity. You probably also go and study and get training in Western countries. What does training in China do that the other training programs can't offer? Maxwell.
Well, Nigeria basically actually has a very strong media presence, and with a very strong youth population that are very creative. And as you may be aware, again, we have a strong presence in terms of film production in Africa and globally. So, but talking in terms of partnership and what Nigeria may stand to benefit, it may be largely be in the area of post-production, like training in post-production. I mean, China has reached the golden age of film industry and all that. So they have a wealth of experience. Of course, a lot of equipment have been manufactured here to be able to get the quality of production that we will need. But creativity is not lacking, but we want a kind of standard that can make box offices and so forth. I think this is where the training will come very handy for Nigerians' creative industry.
Yeah. And in terms of Chinese programs being introduced to African audiences, what's the story in Nigeria? Tell us a bit.
The Nigerian zone is quite exciting. You know, we've been having some exchange of programs. And recently, a particular series from China called the Beijing Love Story. Actually, it was a household name, especially in the northern Nigeria, because it was dubbed in Hausa. Very interesting story that has to do with young couples in love and so forth. I can't remember the details of the story, but it was a household series, you know, acted by the Chinese, everything done in Chinese, but dubbed in Hausa.
Yeah, how come it became so popular?
I think it was a story of love. Love and emotions are the same everywhere in the world. It resonated, probably the story or the script may have resonated with an average Nigerian, and they could feel it, they could relate with it. And it was well acted. It was, again, well produced, in high quality.
So the people got a better understanding of the Chinese people's
lives and all that, how young people like them fall in love and all that. You know, this is universal.
Yeah. Is there the Beijing love story in Uganda, in Rwanda as well?
Yes, really, because I think since 2015, we've been airing some some programs from China. I can point out some. There is, I think, a series called Jin's Happy Family. It's Jin's Happy Family. It's a series and have been really, really appreciated by Rwandans, and we up to now we still we are just running some kid shows, kids programs, and people are just quite they are happy with the program.
And it's also dubbed in the local dialect?
Not really, not really. Up to now we are just hearing them, but they are dubbed in English.
And okay, but again, it's a Chinese story made for Chinese audience.
Yes, it's Chinese story made Chinese, but dubbed in English.
Yeah. What about Uganda?
Well, Uganda, I think what we've been running much more has been the documentaries. Some documentaries that have been airing on CGTN. We do get a direct feed from CGTN. We do get some news clippings from CGTN that really inform, especially on the international news. So we are looking forward to the other dubs, stories, and because I know that some Swahili productions are being done, and Swahili is much more in Kenya and Tanzania. Uganda, we've started now catching up with the Swahili dialect, and Rwanda and Burundi. So it's something that we are looking at as East African, that we shall be able to share the Swahili versions of the stories.
So in the future, in terms of content exchange, what would you be looking for to have more Chinese content coming to Africa? Would you be looking for greater TV series like what you have seen, or would you be looking for greater capacity in translating more Chinese content to the local language? What will be the things that you will be looking for?
In Uganda, what we're really looking at, especially in terms of transfer of knowledge from China, if we can really get some educative material, educative stories that can resonate with our current situation, because we know that you have transformed tremendously in agriculture. We know that you must be having some documentaries on agriculture, you must be having some documentaries on industrialization, on mindset change, because everything starts with the mind. And we know that in China you have, there's some magic that you have done with the population, the discipline and everything. So how have you managed to overcome all these barriers to become a first world and industrialized nation? So educative movies, entertainment, yes, entertainment, everyone wants to be entertained, would love that. But I'm much more looking at that side of the story that tells the success story of China, that we can piggyback on and quickly transform ourselves.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we're going to take a very short break, and you have been watching a special edition of The Point with me, Liu Xin. I have been talking to 3 guests from Africa about China African TV and Media Corporation. We'll take a short break and stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back. I have been talking to Maxwell Loko from Nigeria, who is Managing Director of the Nigerian Television Authority, Kennedy Munyangeyo from the Rwanda TV, and Winston AGABA, Managing Director of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. So indeed, very interesting that Mr. AGABA, you were talking about wanting to learn more about experience from China instead of entertainment. In the future, Maxwell, for your country, what do you think can be more interesting to Nigerian audience coming from China?
You know, we have a strong, deep-rooted tradition to storytelling and theater. And so most often, again, if you want to send a message to an average Nigerian, put it in a drama form. And probably that could be why there was this sudden upsurge of local movies that made so much waves, even locally, regionally, and internationally. So I think drama will be my number one if I have to, you know, itemize it.
Kennedy, yes?
Yes, on our side, I think, as my brother AGABA was saying, we need to have more documentaries, because I think storytelling programs should be nice for us just to know exactly what is China, who is Chinese people, and
Yeah. So indeed, it's a two-way experience.
Exactly.
It's a two-way process. I was going to come to this because obviously for me, if I think about the all the media content that I watch, not much originally produced from Africa.
Yes.
And I would like to see more. I think there is so much to be explored. What can be done in that regard?
For that question, because we've been airing Chinese programs, but up to now, I think there is no there is no Rwandan programs on Chinese platforms. I'm just wondering, is China ready to air Rwandans Africans program? So, because if we are just doing cooperation, it must be two ways.
Well, I wouldn't say we are not ready
Yeah.
to watch. So if there's a good program, we will be watching
Exactly,
it.
yeah.
But I think it's also a market-led activity or a commercial activity. It needs to be a viable program that's well produced. Then the Chinese people will be clicking it.
And I think that is where the synergies can come in. Because China, you've been doing so many documentaries and filming. So co-production with us in Africa, I think, is the way to go. When you look at areas that would really be very interesting to the Chinese population, I believe that tourism, because tourism in Africa is big. We have all the tour features that you can think of, not only just culture, but the animals, the vegetation, rich heritage of different areas. And we believe that with nice co-produced content, with the support of the Chinese government, the private sector in China, this is an area that we can have so many documentaries churned out for the Chinese market, telling the African story, as opposed to the story that is being told by other media of only war, disease, conflict.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Great ideas, but so far we have yet to see a success co-production. I don't know, not to my knowledge yet. Do you think something is hampering to, the process of turning such good ideas into a, good outcome? What do China and African countries have to overcome in really producing good content?
I think the hurdles there are definitely going to be overcome. Like right now in Uganda, we are in advanced stages talking with Startimes. We're going to be doing some joint productions, both for the Ugandan market and the international market, because really it's a global village now. Almost there are no boundaries of who can watch what, YouTube and all these other new media. The convergence of media is, we must keep in pace with it. So co-production with the private sector is very important, and that's where we see the synergies to be leveraged by players like Startimes and other players in the market to make sure that, because one of the mandates of any player within the East African market, a percentage of what they show should be locally produced. So that is going to help. And those are some of the mechanisms that government have put in place to make sure that this knowledge, technological transfer is not only just getting already made material, but you'll be seeing much more coming out of Africa. Nigeria is a very good example. I mean, Nigeria is the second biggest movie industry in the world. And in Uganda, in Africa, everyone watches Nigerian movies. So I believe we are there, we are getting there. It's a process.
Any Nigerian movie coming our way soon?
Yes, I think so. Nollywood produces an average of 2,000 movies in a year. I think that is huge.
With Chinese teams or Chinese companies, are we seeing anything yet?
Not yet, and I think that is where the cooperation is needed. I'm aware there has been some talks going on, I don't know under what platform, for the content developers in Nigeria and the content developers in China to exchange these programs. I don't know what level that talk is now, but I think, like he said, in the very near future, we're going to see an influx of the African content in the China industry. Yes.
Yeah, it needs to be. We need to understand our African friends.
Exactly, and it removes a lot of stereotypes and perceptions that are not really quite true. And we can only tell these stories from our own, narratives when we show what we have and we show people what you have.
Yeah.
Then we enhance the areas of similarities, which I think there are lots of them, culturally and otherwise.
Yeah. In terms of new media, that's where everybody is looking at, right? Everybody is talking about digital first. What kind of challenges do you have, and you know, how you're going to tackle that in Uganda, where everybody is, how many people are still watching TV? What are you going to do about it?
Well, yeah, like you rightly put it, new media is a bushfire. It's there and we can't put it out. And it's for the betterment of how we communicate.
So we better think about not putting it, not trying to think this way.
You can't put it out because it communicates faster. What we need to do in Uganda, what we're doing, is to make sure that we keep in pace with the communications that are coming out. Because as you might know, Uganda, with a population of about 48 million people coming to 50, 70% of that population is under the age of 30. So very young, very vibrant, and unfortunately some people can use the new media to mislead. So as the national broadcaster, as the government, we are proactively making sure that we have teams that also disseminate information that ought to be out there as fast as it can, and any responses are spontaneous. So it's the speed at which we react to whatever comes, and how we communicate all the good things that are being done by the private sector, by government, and anything that is negative is countered immediately. The police is up, like in Uganda, the police has a handle that handles anything that comes up, and they respond, and I believe this is same happening in all the other countries.
Are there any kind of exchanges between China and Africa in this regard? I mean, I do not know. Is there some kind of a, you know, mutual learning process or exchange of experience?
I would be lying if I said that I am aware about any mutual exchanges, but I believe they must be in the pipeline, or if not already happening. Yeah?
Maxwell, what's the situation in Nigeria? How big of a challenge it is for you?
Yes, new media is a phenomenon that is catching up with every African country, you know, basically. But the challenge, again, it's lack of regulation. Like he said, I mean, a medium that can be misused, and with a very active young population that are vibrant and on the go. You have what they call the zero TV homers now. That's the young people who don't sit down.
I'll lose my job tomorrow.
Yeah, who traditionally don't sit down to watch TV like we are used to. And they are a growing population. So how do we integrate the traditional media with the new media? Like you say, we can't talk of burning them out, or we can't talk of doing without them. We must integrate them in what we do and see how we work together with traditional media, with the new media, or we take our content in the traditional media to the young zero homers, so you don't lose your job, and they'll be able to watch content. So it's a huge challenge, but I think it's a welcome one. I mean, people think that may be the end of traditional media, but I don't think so.
I don't think so. So I can still keep my job.
I think one of the biggest challenges that we are all grappling with right now is connectivity, internet, affordability, speed. All these now are a must for all of us to be aware about, because people want to get everything on their phone. All the connecting companies must make sure that you know, we have speeds that are worth following what is happening on both the traditional media and new media, because TV now is being watched on the phone, on the go.
Right.
Yeah, the internet penetration is a huge challenge. I think that is what is even hampering the progress of the new media, because internet is broadband driven. So the broadband penetration in Africa is still very low.
Yeah, and again, China can do together with African counterparts a lot in that. So it doesn't just restrict itself in media cooperation, in the brodoer telecommunication.
Telecommunication, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
Very, very briefly, I'm going to wrap up, but I really do want to think, do you think it is important or necessary for China and Africa to work together in terms of media, so that we can have a louder voice, that we speak for ourselves on the international arena, and how important that is? Kennedy?
Sure, because outside, let's say Europeans are not really sure that this should be done. So it's up to us just to make it. It's up to us to raise that voice, work together closely, and get a win-win cooperation we are looking for.
Yeah, if we don't speak for ourselves, others will speak for us.
Sure.
AGABA.
I think we do not even have to debate about it. It's a must.
Yep.
And our people are demanding for it. Because, like Kennedy has just said, it's a win-win. I think China, you've come forth with honesty. You've come as brothers to share your experiences with us. And we are ready to make sure that we keep on making sure that it's a continuous improvement. This relationship must go on. This relationship must be grown to higher levels. We want to see all the Chinese coming to tour Africa. Yeah, we know that the China population makes the biggest tourist numbers in the world, but you're going elsewhere. Yet Africa is there for the taking, with the beauty and the serene, the people, the warmth. So it's something that we must do, and we must support all initiatives, both by government and the private sector, to make sure it happens.
Greater people-to-people exchanges. Maxwell?
Yes, Africa and China are suffering the same stereotype when you talk of perception, probably from the Western world and other parts of the world. So with that common challenge, I think we have a common goal, you know, to come together and speak from our own perspective, change the narratives in our own way. The media cooperation goes just beyond exchange of content and all that. We have to begin to tell our stories, you know, from our own perspective. You see documentaries, of course, that are not in very good light, of both Africa and China. All the Chinese are coming and all that. So, but rightly or wrongly, I mean, these perceptions and stereotypes have to be corrected. And more than any continent in the world, Africa and China are the most hard hit. And it's up to us to correct it. And it's up to us to correct it.
Well, the Chinese is here. And Africans as well. So many thanks to my three guests. Maxwell Loko, Managing Director of Nigerian Television Authority, Kennedy Munyangeyo, Head of Rwanda TV, and WINSTON AGABA, Managing Director of Uganda Broadcasting Corporation. Thank you so much. And many thanks to our audience for having watched this program. As usual, you can follow me on Facebook and Twitter using the handle The Point with LX. Download the application called CGTN to watch the show on your mobile devices, or go to YouTube and look for CGTN The Point. Thanks for watching. You've got the point.